There's this one psychological trait that can literally be the difference between succeeding or failing when you're trying to learn something new. And it all boils down to how your brain handles one single thing: confusion.
So, have you ever tried to learn a new language and just felt completely, totally overwhelmed? Right? It's like one rule says this, and then the very next sentence has some exception that just breaks the rule completely. It's so frustrating. Well, guess what? Your reaction to that exact feeling, it actually has a name. And getting a handle on it could totally change the way you learn.
So what is this powerful little trait? It's called ambiguity tolerance. And that's the big idea we're going to unpack together today.
Okay, so what does that even mean? To put it simply, ambiguity tolerance is basically a measure of how open-minded you are. Now, this isn't about how smart you are, not at all. It's about your willingness to just, consider ideas that don't fit neatly into the boxes you've already built in your head. It's your mental comfort zone when things get uncertain or contradictory.
The best way to think about it is like a spectrum, right? On one end, you've got high tolerance. These are the folks who are super open to new, even weird or contradictory information. And then, all the way on the other end, you have low tolerance, or, intolerance. These are the people who are a bit more closed-minded, the ones who really need everything to fit perfectly into their existing mental boxes.
All right, so let's dive into that high tolerance side of things. What does it actually look like to be one of these people? Let's meet the open-minded learner and figure out what their secret sauce is.
And wow, the advantages here are huge. When you're free to entertain innovative ideas, that means you're the person who can connect two things that seem totally unrelated and poof, create something brand new. You're not disturbed by uncertainty. Think about that. While everyone else is getting frustrated and wants to quit, you're just seeing a cool puzzle that needs solving. You're totally comfortable hanging out in those gray areas, and honestly, that's where all the real creativity is born.
And this brings us right back to where we started, with learning a new language. Because this exact trait, being comfortable in those messy gray areas, is absolutely 100% essential.
I mean, why? Because language is a total minefield of ambiguity. You're not just learning new words, you're learning words that have no perfect translation in your own language. You're not just memorizing rules, you're trying to learn rules that the language itself seems to break all the time. And on top of all that, you're absorbing a whole new cultural system that's baked into every single phrase. If you don't have a high tolerance for all that chaos, your brain just, it hits the brakes.
And check this out, this quote really nails the mindset. Someone with high tolerance is just more content, more comfortable, just sitting with those contradictions. They can literally hold two opposing ideas in their head at the same time and just let them be, giving them a chance to make sense later on, instead of immediately rejecting one of them. Okay, but wait a second. Here's a twist. Is it actually possible to be too open-minded? Let's get into the potential pitfalls. This is section 3, the dangers of openness.
So what's the downside? Well, the big risk of having way too much ambiguity tolerance is that you can become, for lack of a better word, wishy-washy. You're so open to absolutely everything that you never really form any solid conclusions about, anything.
And this is a huge trap to fall into. See, when you accept every single proposition that comes your way, you can't build a solid mental framework. It's kind of like trying to build a house with no blueprint, and you just say yes to every material that shows up. Doesn't matter if it's bricks or jello, you just end up with this big pile of disconnected facts. That's just rote memorization. It's not real understanding. You're not learning, you're just collecting. Which brings us to a really surprising idea. What if, and stick with me here, what if a little bit of intolerance is actually a good thing for learning?
Yeah, let's make the case for it.
See, a healthy dose of intolerance acts like a filter. It's the thing that protects you from being wishy-washy. It's what gives you the power to say, you know what, no, that idea is a dead end, and just close off those hopeless paths. It helps you reject stuff that completely contradicts what you already know for sure, and that is so crucial for building a coherent, reliable system of knowledge.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. A mind that's too intolerant closes up way too soon. It gets rigid, dogmatic. Think of a tree that can't bend in the wind. It just gets brittle. So the first strong gust of a new idea doesn't make it sway, it makes it snap. And for that language learner we were talking about, that's the moment they hit the first tricky grammar rule and just decide, this language is stupid, and they just give up.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, it brings us to our final and probably most important section: how to find that sweet spot, that optimal balance between these two extremes. Okay, so we've seen the pros and cons of both sides, right? High tolerance is great for creativity, but you end up with no structure. Intolerance gives you that structure, but you risk becoming rigid. So, what's the answer? Which one is actually better for learning?
And the answer is neither of them. It's a trick question. The most effective learners, they aren't stuck at one end of the spectrum or the other. Real mastery comes from finding that dynamic balance between the two.
So here it is, the crucial point of all this. The real goal is a flexible mindset. It's about developing the wisdom to know when to be open, like when you're just starting to explore a new topic and you need to soak up information, and also knowing when to be a bit more closed, when it's time to organize all that information into a system that actually makes sense.
And that leaves us with a final question, something for you to think about. I want you to consider something you're trying to learn right now. Could be anything. Where in that process could you use a little more openness? Let yourself be confused for a bit. And where do you maybe need to apply a bit more structure, a bit of that healthy intolerance to build a really solid foundation? Because finding that personal balance, well, that's the real key.
So, if you like videos like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon to get notified every time we post a new video, and share this video with your classmates, teachers, and friends. Thank you all for your input. Let's keep this process efficient and on track.